Chapter 21 of The Mandalorian struck a much-needed chord for me this season. Now, I understand that not everyone has loved Season 3 of The Mandalorian so far, and if that's you, let me know why in the comments. If I'm honest, this season of The Mandalorian has felt a bit awkward to me, and I think I finally figured out why. The story of Din Djarin and Grogu is being refocused into a second act of the series, if you will, but I'll come back to that later in the video. First, do the cringy YouTube thing for me and leave a like for the video, and if you're interested in more Star Wars content, hit the subscribe button. I promise to deliver quality videos that aren't a simple rehash of what every other YouTuber is doing. And if you're new to the channel, say hello in the comments below.
Hello there.
So let's jump into the reason that you probably clicked on this video, and that's a discussion about Chapter 21 of The Mandalorian titled The Pirate. This episode takes us back to Nevarro, where Greef Karga is continuing to expand the now independent planet. However, he is interrupted by the pirate Gorian Shard. Remember the Davy Jones looking guy from episode 1 of this season? Karga swallows his pride and reaches out to the New Republic. Remember, he has not asked the New Republic for help yet. They've remained independent on Nevarro. Carson Teva is one of the few New Republic officers privy to something sinister happening out in the galaxy. Whether that be Thrawn or the early rumblings of the First Order, Teva recognizes that Nevarro is just another piece to a more sinister big picture puzzle. So in Principal Duval,
Never in my 14 years as an educator have I seen such behavior.
that's not his character, tells Carson Teva the New Republic cannot help Nevarro, he seeks out the Mandalorians. He tracks them down through R5, saying he served with him during the rebellion. And for the life of me, I could not remember at what point when R5 was serving with the rebellion. So I had to do some digging. Remember, he's the astromech droid that Owen and Luke purchased from the Jawas originally in A New Hope before R5 combusts and they choose R2-D2 instead. I couldn't find anything about him joining the rebellion though. All we know is that he came into the service of the rebellion sometime after he sacrificed himself so that R2-D2 could become freed from the Jawas. That's right, R5 purposefully sabotaged himself so that R2 could continue his time-sensitive mission. You can read all about that in A New Hope's From a Certain Point of View collection of short stories. If you haven't checked out those books, they're pretty awesome. They're a great thing to read or listen to. The Mandalorians eventually agree to help Greef Karga and the people of Nevarro, but not without a price. A primary motive for them is the opportunity to settle on the land that Karga promised. Now, I say not without a price, not because the Mandalorians were maliciously demanding a price for their help. They ultimately do, because of a rousing speech from Paz Vizsla of all people, they ultimately do choose to go help people and help Nevarro because they were in trouble and they decide they're going to use their skill set and their abilities to help Greef Karga and the people of Nevarro. But they understand that one thing they might be able to get out of it is some land and an opportunity for a real home. I've got to toot my own horn for a second, but at some point in a past video, I called that they were setting up Nevarro to be the new homeworld for the Mandalorians, even if it's just a temporary home until they take back Mandalore. But I kind of feel like the new age of Mandalorians could use a fresh start on a completely new world. After the pirates are defeated, the armorer speaks with Bo-Katan, and we find out that she has believed what Bo said about the mythosaur. I think in a lot of ways, Bo-Katan is actually restoring the armorer's faith. The armorer has been in survival mode since the Purge. She's been leading the children of the Watch in hopes that one day there would be hope for a new age. And seeing Bo-Katan's leadership over the past few weeks and even her sense of honor has probably changed the armorer's perception of Bo-Katan towards the disgraced princess of Mandalore. So we finally get clear endorsement of Bo-Katan as the next Mandalorian leader, at least by the Children of the Watch, but she still has to go and convince the other scattered Mandalorians out there that she is worthy of being the leader who unites all Mandalorians. And you know what's crazy about the Children of the Watch endorsing her is that the guy with the darksaber is literally standing next to her while the armorer is endorsing Bo-Katan. This just goes to show that the Mandalorians are heading into a new age where perhaps things like the darksaber aren't going to be as important. In the words of Count Vidian, shout out to everyone who's read that book, forget the old ways. Now, I still think the old ways will be important. Obviously, the mythosaur and what that means is going to be crucial to Bo-Katan's story and her rise to leadership, but perhaps it'll be more important for her when convincing other Mandalorians, but maybe the Children of the Watch don't need anything more now after seeing her honor and her leadership ability. Maybe they just don't need the mythosaur or the Darksaber anymore to accept her leadership. In the episode, the final big plot point comes after Bo-Katan heads out to gather the scattered Mandalorians throughout the galaxy, which, by the way, I wonder if that means we just won't see her much for the rest of the season. Maybe she'll come back at the end. Either way, she's been a spotlight character for me so far, and I'm really excited for what they're doing. I digress though. The final big plot point comes after Bo-Katan heads out, and Carson Teva discovers a Lambda-class shuttle dead in space. This was the shuttle that transported Moff Gideon to his trials at the New Republic. The hull had been breached and there was no sign of Moff Gideon, and whoever took him left behind a shard of Beskar embedded in the wall. This could indicate a few different options, and I've seen a lot of theories out there, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure what I think is the right one yet, but I will make a video when I figure out which theory I like the most. But for now, here are some of the options on the table. One, somebody could be framing the Mandalorians so that the New Republic will deal with them and maybe get rid of them, take them off the playing field. Perhaps it's somebody working for Moff Gideon that knows that the Mandalorians are kind of a thorn in his side, so perhaps they're framing Mandalorians so the New Republic can deal with them. The other leading theory in terms of specifically named Mandalorians is that Sabine Wren is the one who got to Moff Gideon. We haven't seen her since Rebels, and perhaps she freed Moff Gideon in an effort to discover more information about Thrawn and ultimately Ezra Bridger. Speaking of Rebels, how cool was it to see Zeb in live action? I'm glad that it looks like he's at least partially mostly done with CGI. I love the practical costumes, but sometimes it's a little too clear to me that it's a costume. So I actually really liked that they put some, what appears to be a lot of money into the CGI of Zeb. I think he looks awesome. I'm excited to see more of him, and I hope that is just something that points more and more towards the story that we're gearing up to with Ahsoka and perhaps Sabine Wren, Thrawn, and all sorts of things like that really, I guess, is serving as potentially a sequel to Rebels, I guess. It's been a strange year or two for Star Wars. Andor, Kenobi, the Book of Boba Fett were all introduced, and their reception has been a mixed bag of emotions. And despite waiting 2 years, it seems that Season 3 of Mandalorian is also falling into this pattern for many fans of not living up to expectations. I've seen everything from there's no direction to they're replacing Din Djarin with Bo-Katan. And I've got to say, I disagree with a lot of these ideas, and Chapter 21 spells out why this season will deal with the future of the Mandalorians and reveal a greater threat to the galaxy. I don't know about you, but those are two very big plot points that require some setting up, so it makes sense to me that they've taken a little bit of time in Season 3 to maybe lay some of the foundation there. I think that Chapter 21 very clearly defines the second act of the entire series. This is that new story focus I mentioned at the beginning of the video. This second act will deal with the Mandalorians paving a new path forward while encountering a new threat to the galaxy. If you want to check out a cool theory, go check out Star Wars Fanatics' video about the Grisk. I'll post a link in the description, but it's a really interesting thought. Personally, I think that the great threat Carson Teva is talking about is probably the early rumblings of the First Order. But whatever the threat, Thrawn is somehow involved. I thought this was the best episode of the season so far. The pacing reminded me of Season 1, where someone needs help, so Din goes to help them. This episode also continued the troubling narrative that the New Republic is not perfect. Even though they are making an attempt to rule better than the Empire, there's still a dystopian society feel that I don't really trust. Overall, I give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. I felt really pulled into each scene, and the music was exceptional, which is not something I always feel about the music in this show. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. Was this the best episode of Season 3 so far? And be sure to leave a like on the way out. Don't forget to subscribe if you made it this far, and I'll catch you in the next video. May the Force be with you.